Welcome to Video Marketing Made Easy. Today, I'm going to teach you how to shoot better quality video with just a smartphone and stuff you can find around the house. Now, I'm going to be talking about talking head videos because going by the responses to our Help Us Help You survey, that's something that everybody needs to learn. And by the way, thank you to every single one of you who filled out that survey so far. And if you haven't yet, the link is in the description below. Now, a talking head is just what you call a person speaking on camera, either for an interview or someone addressing the camera like I'm doing right now. So when I say talking head, I don't mean like that Pee Wee Herman character that just is the floating head, okay? Now, this episode is going to be packed with info, so buckle up. And if you are wondering what that means, it just means there's going to be a lot of stuff. So it's going to be a good one, but a long one. Now, first, decide if you want your video to be portrait or landscape. Now, until recently, landscape was a standard for professional videos, but now with so many people watching videos on their phones, we're seeing more professional videos in a portrait format. The main thing to consider here is where your audience is going to see your video. If the primary platform for the video you're creating is, say, TikTok or Instagram stories, then you definitely want to shoot portrait. Otherwise, if the primary audience for your video is going to be watching on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're embedding a video hosted on YouTube onto your newsletter or website, then you need to look into if your audience is, viewing on a mobile or desktop. If they're mostly on mobile, then portrait will be great. And if they're on desktop, landscape is the way to go. So try not to make any assumptions here. Actually, what you can do is go into your analytics for the newsletter or website that you're working with so you can make an informed decision. And side note, if you're shooting a video to be submitted to be used in something like, say, a virtual event, like a message from your executive director, always shoot those landscape unless the event organizer tells you otherwise. Now that you got that figured out, the next thing to think about is sound. Audio is super important with a talking head because the viewer, they need to be able to understand what your subject is saying. Because of this, especially if you don't have a microphone, location is key. Now, most times when people are coming up with a location for a shoot, they're trying to find somewhere with a pretty background, but you could find the most beautiful background ever, but if it's windy and there's street noise so you can't hear what the person is saying, nobody is going to care about how beautiful that background is. So think about the ambient noise in the locations that you're considering. Outdoors is always harder because there are just more variables, like kids playing basketball or the neighbor's landscaping crew, which just happens to come at the same time as your shoot. Of course, you got helicopters flying overhead. Indoor locations, they also have challenges too. Now, if it's in an office with a lot of people using Xerox machines and doors opening and closing, phones ringing, conversations going on. So just do your best and try to find the most controlled environment you can. Now, if you end up in an indoor location with a lot of echo, that's usually because there's not a lot of cloth around. You probably have like a hardwood floors and not a lot of furniture. Then the way to help with that echo is to lay out some blankets and pillows. That can really help deaden the sound. So once you pick a location, the next thing is to decide how to frame your shot. Now, we don't want this video to get too overwhelming, so we're just going to talk about shooting indoors. And since we're just shooting with a phone and no other lights, your best bet is to shoot during the daytime in a room with a window. Just simply position the speaker so the window is either to the left or the right. Having the main light source to one side, it gives dimension and contour to the speaker's face. So it's, say, more of a flattering look. Now, if it's not possible to have the window on one side or the other, it can just be behind the camera. That's there, not here. This isn't as good because it can just flatten the speaker's face, but just try to be aware of how they look on camera and adjust accordingly. Now, what you don't want is for the window to be behind the speaker or even in the frame at all, especially around midday when the sun is really bright. That's going to blow out the shot, meaning like it's all just going to look all white and you're going to be all dark and shadowy. Now to position your phone. For a talking head, it's best not to go handheld. Even the steadiest hand isn't going to be able to hold a shot long enough. So for this demo, we used a folding TV dinner table, stacked a bunch of board games and books and containers to make the stable platform for the phone to sit on where it would be at eye level. Now, this takes some experimenting. We had the Harry Potter book under the phone at first, which is the best usage for a Harry Potter book, but that was a little too high, too many pages in that book, which is another reason why I haven't read it yet. So we switched it out with the Blokus game, and that worked better. So the moral of the story here is Blokus better than Harry Potter. That was for you, Jamie. She loves Harry Potter. Anyways, once you're at a good enough height, painter's tape is a great way to hold your phone in place. So you don't need to buy a fancy equipment, just get a simple strip of blue tape and voila, you got it held right there. If you can tilt the phone forward just slightly, that might improve the shot too. Now have your subject sit in the position and make sure they look good. Refer back to the framing episode for more info on that. And we recommend doing a mic check, so record them introducing themselves and play it back just to make sure that their volume is good and that there isn't too much background noise. Now, if you can't hear them, you might need to move them closer to the phone or just ask them to speak louder. One last thing, I know a lot of you people have been recording videos on Zoom, and we really want to encourage you not to do that. The camera on a decent smartphone is almost always going to be better than a webcam. And on top of that, Zoom downgrades the quality of both the video and the audio. So we can pretty much guarantee that that footage recorded with your phone will look and sound way better. Now, I hope this was helpful. And if you want a PDF of all these tips, plus a little more, there's a link in the description for a guide that we made for recording your own video at home. Now, we're going to go ahead and jump into the Q&A section in our Facebook group. And if you're not in the Facebook group, well, come on over. It's free to join. The link is in the description below. All right, I'll see you there. Thanks so much for watching. Give me a like below if you enjoyed this video and share it with anyone who might find it useful. And if you need some tips on how to frame a talking head, check out this episode right here. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Video Marketing Made Easy.